Hi, my name is Tom Gingerich from Oregon, and I've been studying water and soil regeneration for probably 12 years. And I'm 44 and just here in Oregon, grew up and raised on a dairy farm. And it started, from working with livestock agriculture all the way through to the last, well, probably 2013, I think it was, when I started to make the connections, connect the dots, to all the agriculture destruction. And basically, I was into soil management and managing a ranch and full on cowboy lifestyle in Montana. And then just making the connection with the animals and the soil because we was looking to grow grass and seeing what it took to regenerate the soil. So I started to make that connection, and then by 2014 I was went vegan, and it was quite a journey from pretty dramatic change because of that lifestyle, being immersed in it, and then going plant based. So it was a lot of the animals helped me. It was a situation where I would be with the cows daily, and sometimes one of the cows, that I hadn't touched before, would all of a sudden walk up to me and stand right next to me and wait to be touched. So it was like the cows were waking me up or holding space for when I was ready to hear or actually receive the higher information about the connection of all life. So for me, it was more of a spiritual journey, and now I'm at the point where just leave the animals alone. I'm in the soil and growing fruit and seeing how high we can get the bricks. The bricks is a measurement or refractometer. It refracts the light on the minerals. So you use the juice of the fruit, and it will give a reading on the sugars. And so that's a measurement we can use in our research to grow higher quality fruits and vegetables. Anyway, that's a lot of the background. I had a story on the ranch where before I woke up, there was some little rock chucks. They were, if you look up marmot, there's these little groundhog creatures. Anyway, they were digging holes around the structures, the buildings and stuff, and so the owner of the ranch I was managing, he wanted to get rid of them. So I was killing them for 3 years, and every year I got more and more. And what I found was anytime we decimate the population of a species in a certain area, then it will activate what's referred to as the species survival syndrome, and it will start breeding and having more to cover that deficit there. So that's what happened. And anyway, by 3 years, one of them came and it went up on the hill where I was, where they'd never been, and literally came and knocked on my window. So that was quite a wake-up call. Knocked on my window, and the message I got was, "Stop killing us." So I stopped, and everything returned to peace, and it was a good story. So it was a reminder to me of what we do and the repercussions of everything, every choice we make. So once again, energy is all about the pure energy we can ingest or send out. That's all reflected back into our world, and it creates what we experience. So it's a feedback loop of what we put out and what we ingest. And coming back to the plant-based veganism and the quality of the produce and everything, it's all about, when we talk about energy, it's all about connecting with the purest form of energy. It's not so much about what we're doing to the environment. Is for me anyway, the spiritual part of it is connecting to the higher source of that life energy. And if we think of the sun is needed for all life, and it's like a pure form of energy. So the further we can go back to that pure source, like say the sun is feeding the grass is feeding the cattle, we're eating the animals. That's the typical. But now we need to step back and say we can eliminate the cattle in that line and go back to grass, and we can eliminate that and go back to fruit. And actually the fruit is the ultimate pure energy in because we get to water. And that's why I'm really excited with the water research I'm doing. When we look at what we ingest, it's really the water, the quality of the water is what makes the difference in our cells, because we're quite literally 99% water molecules by volume. That's what makes up our physicality. And so water is the driver of all life, and it's the carrier of the frequencies of electromagnetic. And what I like to say is the minerals are the frequency generators, and the water is the carrier, the conductor. So really it's the quality of the water that we're ingesting that really makes up our experience. And so now for me, I'm looking at the quality of the water to start with. Like that's the basic. To start in any environment that I want to be in, that I resonate with, is look at the water quality. So that really seems to, I've had phenomenal results and amazing things, synchronicities, a lot of epiphanies and insights when I look at water. And all the researchers, the scientists that I've paid attention to said that the more they look at water, the more there is to see. It's the most fascinating subject that they've ever studied, because the deeper they look into the water molecule, there's more to see and more. So the properties and the quality of the water is where it's at in everything we ingest. And something to think about is when we're talking about frozen fruit, the ice crystals that form around the fruit actually help. It gives a dramatic increase of nutrient availability to the cell because of the crystalline structure of that ice crystal. So, it can be debated, I guess, whether fresh or frozen. Obviously fresh in a higher quality water situation where it's grown in really good water, that's the best. But if you're having, just average quality fruit, then sometimes that frozen fruit is actually more cleansing, to the cell because of the crystallography or the structure of the water molecule. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. For me, I did some water fasts. So there was a water fast that I did for like 7 days, and I was, focused on the quality of the water and doing different things. And sometimes I'd add some minerals, sometimes not, and just looking at that. But the ultimate was people can, when they're talking about cleansing, for how long it would take to clean up the body, at least settle in for 7 years. It may take a shorter time or longer, but 7 years is a good average just to set your mind to that. Allow 7 years before you really get a sense of how much it takes or what people need to go through. So I was on a really deep journey, especially like from 2015, and then it wasn't until 2020 that I really went on a deep dive into the cleansing. And the whole intestinal tract, that was the ultimate, because it's coated with all kinds of mucus and parasites, and graphene oxide is one of the big ones. There's lithium. I had a tremendous amount of lithium and graphene oxide coming out of my nasal through I think it's around the pituitary gland, and there's a pineal and pituitary gland in the center here, and I got a lot of it out through my skin, out the top of my head, out of the brain, and all through the body. So it come out externally and internally through the pathways. But the graphene is the ultimate layer, I feel, to clean up the cellular structure. So that's really there's so much more to get into detail-wise. If anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to share more. It took a long time to get it out of my digestive tract, all the way out, and parasites and graphene, all the way down to the anus. It's there, and it's difficult to remove. It takes a lot of work. And once again, the quality of the water, along with some like fulvic acid, has really helped me in a powder form. So I mix that and take that in daily, in just high doses. So feel free to use your intuition as you go along, and just as long as it's a natural substance, just use your intuition and increase the dose. That's really my takeaway here is go to higher doses because your body will only let you have the experience of detox as much as you can handle. So if you trust your intuition, you can use these natural herbal supplements, fulvic, the different essential oils, all this stuff, and just ingest a higher dose than you've ever done before and see what it feels like. And your body will tell you, whether to back off for a day or two and then go forward again. But that's really, for me, how I got to the level of cleansing I did. It was just, nobody could tell you this. It was experience, and you would just use your divine higher guidance to push through. And there was times, a couple times when you would feel like it was a new feeling of detox and you didn't know what was happening. And so you might lay on the bed for a couple days, and that was usually the extent of it. But the pain, they say no pain, no gain. Well, that was true. There's quite a bit of pain involved. But it's the other side is this glorious new feeling. And it really is a phenomenal experience. I tell people now, it feels like I'm in heaven. It really does. You walk around in the bubble because of the higher frequency, and people don't see you in that space. They can physically acknowledge you, and yet your energy field is such a high vibration, they don't see you as far as to communicate otherwise. There's no resonance there. So that's an experience to know about, and work through, because a lot of times we react or want to, say something to a lower vibrational being, and it's just not being heard, so it's kind of frustrating that way. Now, the other thing is my younger brother, he went vegan like 3-4 years after I did, and from my inspiration. So he was inspired by what I was doing and the energy. So we were working together, and my energy levels were super high, and I felt amazing. And so that's kind of what prompted him to go vegan, and it was also wonderful. He noticed an effect with his brain fog and the different levels of his health. So for both of us, I would say it was the health is what kick-started it, or was the motivation for it. And then for me, it was more of a spiritual, and I just went on to higher levels, of knowing and wisdom and how to work with the body. And I really feel like the body is the key to the higher dimensions. So the more cleansing we can do, it's just a natural progression of the experience we'll have. So that seems to be the ticket for me, is just to continually work on myself and, feeling the solar energies. We have these activations of ourselves from the solar energies, the eclipses, and the different solar flares, and the energy coming from the sun. So I'm more and more integrating that, and sometimes I'll have to just lay down and sleep, like in the middle of the day. And this one of the latest eclipses, I had to sleep for 3 hours, so that was quite unusual. Usually it's like 10 to 20 minute nap, just to integrate, and that's been quite a unique experience. So I appreciate everybody spreading the message out there, and it is more about just leaving the animals alone. I'm not interested in pets or like per se saving the animals, but it's more about educating people where our energy comes from, how the energy progression works in the life forms. And so it's just about eating cleaner and cleaner, so that we can clean up our cellular waste and be the fully embodied human that we're designed for. And we can last, the body can go on years. So they showed in the lab the quality of the water determined how long the cell lived. So it just changed out the cellular matrix in regular period, regular times, and the body can go on living indefinitely. So it really is just about receiving pure energy. And so there's ways with the pollution. We have chemtrails, we have all this vaccinations in the air. People think they may be vaccinated or not by the jab. Well, that's not the only route. If you eat animal products that have been vaccinated, we're vaccinated. So it's just it's more of how we can mitigate and we can remove these things. So all this pollution, can be removed from the body as it's being ingested, however we get it. So that's what's exciting, is we have the answers now. I know how to do it, and it's the cleansing effects are all there to show us. And I've actually looked at my own things that have come out of my body, through the skin or internal, and looked at it under the microscope to see what it was. And the ultimate thing was the graphene. But also lithium. Lithium it's a mind-controlled drug that really limits our capacity to feel. It's more of a sedative, and so they're spraying that and they're all kinds of stuff. So it's just clean up our internal terrain, and that's the best we can do. The more, going back to the animals, the more we can do for ourselves, that reflects to the animals. And that's what the message I got was with the cattle, was they're holding space for us. So the animals are really a higher conscious being, and they're holding space for the humans. And the other thing that's interesting is when we stop eating animals, they will stop eating each other. So our energy is directly reflected and mirrored back to us through the animals. So that's a really powerful thing to share, is none of them need to eat any other being, flesh. So all of them can be vegan, and that's on us. So when we wake up to that they will stop. And I've already seen the evidence of that, so I know that's true. So I appreciate all you share out there, and thank you.